Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Ringside Rundown podcast. My name is Erik Vasquez, and joining me on the line is my podcasting partner in crime. Yes, that rhymes. She is coming straight from the Berg. She is none other than Shay Hickson. Shay, what's going on, my friend? How was your week?
I could say it was a little rough yesterday, a rough start. Obviously, I feel like everyone knows what we're alluding to, but I will save that for the questions portion because we do have a little bit of a story time with that one. But we're still here. We're
No
still
problem.
here.
No doubt, no doubt. Yes, we are still here. For those of you that are listening for the first time, thank you for checking out the Ringside Rundown podcast. We appreciate it very, very much. For those of you that don't know, this is a pro wrestling podcast where Shay and I discuss what's happening in the world of professional wrestling. And the way we do it is by answering questions sent in by our loyal listeners who want to know a bunch of different things, everything from WWE, AEW, everything in between. So we got a bunch of questions in from our loyal listeners. I'm very excited to get into it as usual. So why don't we get right into it?
Yeah, let's do it. So we're gonna start off. We're gonna switch it up a little bit this week. We're gonna start off with Mike's questions.
All right.
So starting out hot. He wants to know, do we have a favorite Bullet Club memory, and what's our favorite iteration of the Bullet Club since it's not a thing anymore?
Yeah, apparently that after 13 years there is no more Bullet Club, which I got to say that's a pretty good run for a faction in
Yeah.
professional wrestling. 13 years is a pretty good run for any faction in professional wrestling. Bullet Club definitely milked it for all it's worth. I don't necessarily have a favorite moment, but my favorite iteration of the Bullet Club would probably be when things started cooking once the Young Bucks joined the
hmm
Bullet Club. Once they added the Young Bucks in there, and the Young Bucks added that little bit of swagger and coolness factor to the Bullet Club, I think that's when my favorite portion of the Bullet Club kind of kicked up. As much to the chagrin of Mike, who's not a fan of the Young Bucks whatsoever. I gotta say,
Yeah.
when they joined up, it was very interesting. I always thought it was cool when there would be like a new leader of the of the Bullet Club, because like
Yeah.
everybody knew it was gonna happen. But when it happened, it was like, that's pretty neat. They did it with AJ Styles when he kicked out Finn Balor, who was Prince Devitt at the time. They did it with Kenny Omega, so it was pretty cool. And the whole situation with Kenny and Cody in the Bullet Club when right before AEW kicked off was a pretty interesting time for the Bullet Club. But I gotta say, my favorite iteration is probably when the Young Bucks first joined.
Yeah. That's a probably the heyday of Bullet Club, to be honest. I mean, obviously you can argue when it was Prince Devitt's version and then AJ's, but yeah, that honestly is probably my favorite version of it too, kind of around like 2016 to 2018, like when Kenny was involved, the Young Bucks, and you got Adam Cole in there too, and
Yeah.
just splintering off, and then you had the civil war between the Elite and that like Bullet Club and whatnot. So I'd say that was probably my favorite. And I also remember too that like period in time where they had like the Bullet Club shirts at Hot Topic.
Uh.
And I just remember that that was kind of cool, because they always had like really cool designs. I think I was always kind of like biased towards Kenny's design because of
Right.
kind of had the Terminator look to it and whatever. But yeah, I don't really know if I don't really have like a favorite memory of like them per se. I just think the thing that always like sticks out in my mind was like when being the Elite was a thing, and it was around the time the Young Bucks were in Bullet Club was around the time I was in college still, and one of the like I don't know, I guess you could say like bonding moments or whatever, bonding like memories I had with some of my friends was we would always go over to our one friend's dorm, and it was always something for the most part wrestling. It
Uh.
was if we weren't watching wrestling, we were watching the Mayon Classic, we were watching Be in the Elite, we were watching oh God, what else? We were playing 2K, like I think I would have been 15, 16 at the time. So it was just like it was always wrestling, and like always went to his place for the pay-per-views. So I always explicitly remember going over to their place every like Wednesday, Thursday and just watching everything wrestling and being the elite with some of it. And that's kind of where I got introduced to Bullet Clubs.
Mm.
So I kind of got introduced a little late, but yeah, it was kind of cool seeing them act like just fools. Just literally just fools because that's pretty much what it was. But yeah, I'd say our favorite versions are pretty much the same type. But yeah, I definitely just remember the memories of hanging out with my friends, watching Being the Elite and doing all our wrestling things. So
Right.
that'd
Yeah,
definitely be my favorite.
and you brought up a good point of the shirts being in Hot Topic. I remember that it was kind of like the Bullet Club and everything around the Bullet Club that got that whole thing kicked off, which was a miracle. It wasn't a
Yeah.
WWE thing that collaborated with Hot Topic. It just happened to be, the mom and pop store pro wrestling tees that was
Yeah.
kind of making these t-shirts, and then all of a sudden they struck a deal with Hot Topic, and now you can get Bullet Club merchandise at Hot Topic. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, big
Um,
deal.
yeah, it was a big deal because again, it wasn't something that was WWE centered that got the job done. It was something that was Pro Wrestling Tees, which is still considered a mom and pop store operation, and something from New Japan. So that I always thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, it definitely was because you made a good point off of my point where it was always something WWE and it's like, yeah, I mean that's cool, but yeah, no shit that WWE would have something in Hot Topic because it's WWE. They have the manpower and the marketing and the money
Right.
to do that. So for the fact of a shop like Pro Wrestling Tees and I mean obviously lesser known at the time promotion in New Japan to most people in the West to get into a big store like Hot Topic. And it's not like it's a small store either. Hot
Mm-hmm.
Topic's pretty popular and still is. And now you got wrestling and all kinds of stuff in there now. And it's just, yeah, it was just really cool at the time because I think that was when they had like the Hangman like shirt, they had the Young Bucks shirt. I'm pretty sure they had Cody's in there too. And yeah, it was just always really cool to go in there and hope that they had all of them. But I honestly don't think I actually ever bought one other than Kenny's, I'm pretty sure. But
Mm.
still, it's still a pretty cool time in wrestling for sure.
Yeah, for sure. The Bullet Club was just cool, man, and it was cool
Yeah.
when you would see like someone in Bullet Club merchandise, and then you were like, oh, they know ball, as the kids
Yeah.
say,
Yeah,
so like, yeah,
they know
so
ball.
yeah, so it was a very interesting time in the years of the Bullet Club. They splintered off into many different spin-off factions and everything, but they definitely left their mark on the pro wrestling world. So sad to see the Bullet Club go.
Yeah, and I think that was unfortunately kind of what led to it ending was just the fact that there were just so many sub factions within the faction that it kind of was just a point of parody at that point where it
Right.
was like, okay, this is kind of just a shell of what it used to be and no one really takes Bullet Club seriously anymore. And to be fair, they really didn't. So I guess it was just kind of time to just hang it up and look back on it fondly as opposed to looking back on and being like, oh, well, Bullet Club was really cool. And then, they just turn into like a shell of themselves. So you quit while you're ahead to a point, but it was just you couldn't really replicate the success they had over that like period of time when
Right.
again it was Prince Devitt, AJ, Kenny, Cody, and it's just like you couldn't do that for forever. Like it was gonna have to end at some point. So yeah,
Right.
it's sad to see Bullet Club go, but it's what YouTube's for, thankfully.
Yeah, and again, 13 years as a faction is something that's unheard of in professional wrestling. So
Yeah.
13 years is something to be applauded, and good for those that were left over in the Bullet Club for keeping it going for as long as they did for, again, 13 years. Oof.
It's insane
It
because
is.
like to think of anything going on for that long is impressive, especially in wrestling where let's be honest, most people have very short attention spans. So for
Mm-hmm.
the fact that it was at least in some way relevant for that long it's a very impressive thing for sure.
For sure.
All right, so let's move on to we're gonna go to AEW for a little bit. So Jack Perry recruited the Young Bucks to help him out last week, obviously, with all the hoopla with the Don Callis family and whatnot. But wasn't he pissed at the Bucks for turning their back on him when he came back? Yeah, I guess they must have had like an off-camera like therapy session, probably. 'Cause I feel like that's really the only thing that you can really like answer that with, because that's you hate always bringing it up, but unfortunately, it's something we always do have to talk to. I feel like sometimes AEW kind of misses that nuance a little bit, where somebody like Mike's going to pick up on something like that, and there's no backstage segment or anything to justify, hey, why all of a sudden are
Right.
we like cool with each other now? So
Right.
if they would have had that, because they had it with Kenny and the Bucks, so you mean you couldn't have done it with Jack Perry, who was a big deal with them when they were in the Elite? So it's like, wait, why did you guys miss that? So it's just the typical AEW habit of kind of forgetting the little things sometimes. But yeah, it's confusing, but I guess you kind of just have to fill in the gaps yourself, which is a wrestling fan, that's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to have things like that left to the imagination. But
Right.
it's another AEW oversight, but it's nothing new.
Yeah. The only thing I could attest it to is probably like back when that was happening and Jack Perry made his return, the Young Bucks were still kind of in limbo with the Don Callis family. So it was
Yeah.
like they were still bad guys technically, and now that they're both all of them are good guys, it just kind of works. But like you said, there was nothing to um make note. Like they didn't do
Yeah.
anything on TV. They didn't have like a simple backstage segment or something where they like bumped into each other and the Young Bucks said, "Hey, we're sorry for all the things that we did and abandoning you and all of that stuff." Something like that. I feel like, and I don't want to be a homer or anything like that, but WWE is very good at like covering up that stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe it just comes with experience with being a program that you just learn that you have to kind of cover up that stuff because, like you said, there's only a certain subsect of people like Mike that would pick up on that. Like, but
Yeah.
it makes the most sense. It's like, well, why are they friends? Because they did abandon Jack Perry, and he did feel abandoned by them, and he did have a slight against them, and now all of a sudden they're cool and everything's kumbaya with each other.
Yeah.
So I just see it as something that, like you said, AEW kind of has to clean up and make sure it doesn't happen too often, where they let the audience kind of like their minds wander with with the product and where the product is going. I just wish things were a little bit more coherent.
Yeah, that's unfortunately our continuous biggest gripe with AEW is just sometimes it's just the little things that they don't pick up on. And yeah, you can kind of sweep it under the rug after a while, but once it becomes more consistent and more people start catching on to the fact that, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense plot wise, like it's like a movie. You see the plot holes a mile away
Right.
and they do nothing to rectify them, or it's almost that like I'm trying to remember what it's like the like filler, or it's always like a I had a friend that it was a saying that I guess they call with like plot holes, where it's just like there's always that one like little plot hole of a movie where it's like, oh well, we're not going to explain that, it's just going to happen.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? I don't know,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to remember what it's called, but it's there's some phrase that I'm fully just blanking on right now. But yeah, it's always you're only kind of allowed, or should be allowed, like maybe two or three of those in like a movie or a story for it to like be believable. But then once it starts to happen more often, then it's like, okay, well, how am I supposed to believe that this is happening because that wasn't addressed or whatever? And that's the same that goes with AEW, because at the end of the day, wrestling is storytelling in
Hmm.
some way, shape, or form. So you kind of can't have those convenient plot holes. Like, I don't know. They still haven't figured that one out yet, but maybe by the time we're done, I'll figure out what that meant, or like
And not
what
only
it was
that,
called.
like the internet is the internet looks for stuff like that. Like people on the
Oh, and they do.
people on the internet look for ways to poke holes in your entertainment value.
Yeah.
So you don't want that happening because there's always going to be one or two people that are going to be like, well, look at this and da 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 da. And then that grows into something bigger. So you don't want anything like that to happen with your product where it's constantly under a microscope by the naysayers of the internet and the bad faith people who want to be negative about everything. You kind of want to stay away from that, and it's just difficult. It's very difficult in any form of entertainment to make sure you cover up the plot holes.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly don't think honestly, it would be my luck that the phrase is actually just a plot hole, but I could have swore I thought that there was like a certain type of plot hole where it's like you kind of just let it happen, even though it never gets addressed, but I don't know. It'll probably come to me at like 3 in the morning or 5:30 tomorrow when I wake up for work, but by then it'll be long gone, but it's fine. But hopefully the listeners know what I meant. But it's just it's something you shouldn't have happen too often, whether it's writing, video games, movies, whatever, but that's unfortunately one of AEW's tiny Achilles heels that sometimes just add up to create a massive problem, but something they just got to work on. All right, so why did the lights out match start as lights out but then fully lit? Also, can we retire the staple gun from AEW for a while? Well, unfortunately, that's another thing that we kind of have to rag on a little bit is AEW's insistence on overusing every other, like, I don't know, stipulation plot, well, not plot hole. We're not going back down that rabbit hole again. It's just like well, I mean, you could just use like the death match or hardcore match in general is pretty much just like a overused concept right now with AEW because it feels like every other week there's some type of lights out match or some type of no disqualification match or some type of insert city street fight here. It's like it's always some type of hardcore match, and I feel like the problem is that they just do them so well that they just are like, well, we got to keep doing it. Like this is our bread and butter, and it's like, yeah, you guys do it well, but after a while, it's not going to be special anymore. And if you're going to continuously do it, switch it up a little bit. Like Mike's right. This it's always a staple gun. There's always thumbtacks. There's always going to be like some type of like barbed wire or nails or something. And it's like you can almost like call out what they're going to have before they even get it out. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, the whole lights out thing. I mean, I feel like if it would just maybe make more sense if they kind of do that thing they do at like live events where they'll like dim around the crowd so you don't like see them and it's just like the ring. You know what I mean? But
Right.
I feel like that kind of takes away from the fact that that's a main event only kind of ambiance, I guess. But I don't know. I mean, it's not such like a terrible thing. I guess that's just like the lights out and then coming back on is just the signal of like AEW being like, this isn't our problem anymore.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can really
No,
think of as to why they do that. But
yeah, that's basically it. It's just to signify that the match is basically quote unquote unsanctioned and they're not liable for anything that would happen. It's just like a signal basically that they give is why they do the whole thing with the lights. But I do agree with you. I feel like the whole hardcore deathmatch trope is severely overdone in AEW. It's kind of lost its luster because
yeah,
they do it so much. You can guarantee it's gonna happen on at least one pay-per-view. Like every pay-per-view there's gonna be at least one match where they're gonna have hardcore rules and somebody's
yeah,
gonna bleed a lot, and there's gonna be barbed wire and thumbtacks,
yeah,
and I feel like the whole thing is just overdone where it's no longer special anymore. It's
yeah,
somehow a lot of those things have lost their shock value because they've happened so much in AEW. Um,
yeah. Well, and the problem I think is too is the fact that there are so many types of matches, but they're all literally the same, just with a different coat of paint.
right.
Like, there's nothing that they do that like differentiates like a death match from a street fight, from a lights out match, from a, insert this whatever. So it's just like if they had different I mean, again, you can't really say different rules for a match that has no rules, but it's like you have to have different like setups perhaps maybe where it's like maybe like a street fight's kind of like on the low end of things and then you kind of get into like the I don't know, like the lights out matches like this, like kind of intermediate, and then the like I don't know, you know what I mean though, where it's just like if you're gonna do that, like try and separate them as opposed to just this is literally the same match with some pretty much the same weapons and the same format, just with a different name.
Right.
Like just do something to separate them, and that's just their problem. Is it's just like you said, it's always there's going to be weapons, people are going to bleed a lot, it's going to be nasty, and that's pretty much it. And you can pretty much describe any type of like no DQ match in AEW as that. It's
Right.
just there's going to be weapons and there's going to be blood, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing is if you go on the other side of the aisle, you look at WWE, they just had an ambulance match and then they just had a 3 stages of hell match. And
Yeah.
those matches were both severely different from each other. It's not like in AEW where it's just the only thing that's different is the competitors inside the ring. It was
Yeah.
2 no disqualification style matches that were severely different from each other, probably because we don't see it as often as AEW puts on hardcore matches.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just that very obvious divide where WWE can do it and not make it look as brutal, but it's almost, I don't know, I guess for me, it's like you almost kind of, to me, I always kind of prefer AEWs because it's like, okay, well, if I beat you over the head with insert weapon here, yeah, I think in any normal, like, real world scenario, you're going to start bleeding.
Right.
And so it's always kind of a little silly to me that some of the stuff they do in these, like, you know, no DQ matches or whatever in WWE, and there's not a single drop of blood. And I'm like, okay, well, you kind of suspend your disbelief a little bit, I guess,
Right.
but then sometimes, as we always say with AEW, it becomes a little too much. But I don't know. I guess at least it's more realistic, I guess.
Right.
But
It adds an extra layer because if you look at like the blood and guts matches and the war games matches, same exact concept, just
yeah,
completely different vibe depending on the company. Uh
yeah,
you know, the blood and guts match is something if you want to see violence and gore and
yeah,
blood and all of that stuff, you'll get the
needles.
yeah, and then the same exact match in WWE, but you're not going to get any blood or any gore
Yeah,
or anything like that, just kind of a wow factor in a different way. So it's just it's different strokes for different folks, but I think the problem
yeah,
is with AEW again, once a week we're gonna get a hardcore no disqualification match where maybe if we
yeah,
dial it back to maybe once every other month or once every 2 months, it'll be a little bit more special. I'm just looking for these hardcore matches to carry some weight of specialness to them.
yeah, exactly. And it's just they're just not special anymore. And it's not to say they're not entertaining because they
Right.
are. Like that's not taken away from it. They are entertaining, but it's also just like, okay, well, it's going to be entertaining. Like that's not a surprise. I mean, they know how to put them on really well, especially when it comes to the women's like
Right.
street fights and whatever. But it's also just like, okay, well, if you made them a little, you scaled it back a little bit, then it would be a little extra special because it's like, oh, thank God we know this is going to be a good match, and you've been waiting for something like that, as opposed to just, okay, well, we just had one 2 weeks ago. Yeah, sure. What's another one, I guess. Like
And
you shouldn't have to, you shouldn't be saying that about like a street fight or a no DQ match. You're like, oh yeah, cool, we get another one, I guess. It's
not
like
only that,
that's
but like
not.
if you look at like someone like Moxley,
Yeah.
who hasn't been wrestling no DQ matches and hardcore matches, which is more his style. Ever
No.
since the Continental Classic, like he's been wrestling at a different pace, and it's been pretty good. And that's coming from someone who's not a John Moxley fan. And I'm
Yeah.
quite enjoying his matches. His match against Kyle Fletcher was phenomenal. I loved it. And it's just, again, he's more known as a hardcore deathmatch guy, but he hasn't had that in a while. So I'm sure whenever they do have a hardcore deathmatch in line for John Moxley, it's going to be like, wow, can't miss that because now he's getting back to his bread and butter.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So scale it back a little bit. Just please scale it back. Except once again, I don't think they listen to us because I feel like they would have by now. But oh well. All right, so now we're gonna go over to WWE for a minute. So, who got speared worse, Carlito when Braun caught him in the upper body, or Dragon Lee on this past Raw? Also,
Oof.
how cool was that overhead shot of Braun running the aisle? Yeah, I mean, that's always the thing like WWE's good with is like the camera angles and just like the unique perspectives of like, oh, well, I wouldn't have thought to do it that way. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
As far as who died, better, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I feel like okay, so so like just walk with me for a minute. So I feel like Carlito's was the more like brutal. However, Dragon Lee's looked more painful because Dragon Lee's looked like a full on like football tackle because he
Right.
landed full weight on top of him, and I'm like,
Right.
oh, this is. I just saw this last night and it was not pretty. And then Carlito just soul was just forcefully extracted from his body. So I feel like they were both pretty bad in their own special way.
Yeah.
But that's just Braun Breaker with a spear for you. Like it's insane.
That overhead shot that they showed of Monday Night's spear to Dragon Lee, it made it look like Dragon Lee got hit by a Mack truck. Like he kind of
Yeah.
turned into it and his body just jarred one way and then back the other way. So that to
Yeah.
me is why it was for me it's a little bit more devastating because Carlito kind of he saw it coming in a way, but there was nothing he could do about it. Dragon Lee just kind of stepped into it and just got
Yeah.
trucked. Oh my God. It was just the way his body just went forward and then lashed back. It was, Braun Breaker's a freak. There's something,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's something seriously wrong with Braun Breaker and Adam Pearce was justified in being that angry with
Yeah.
Braun because poor Dragon Lee, he just his body just contorted.
How he hit if he didn't get whiplash, that would be like a miracle. Like
Seriously.
he had to have woken up with a headache or something the next day because holy fuck, that was I don't
Yeah.
want to take one of those. Even if I have like a bunch of padding on, if I have like football pads on and stuff, I still don't want to take that because I'm still gonna be bruised from
Yeah.
head to toe.
Seriously.
Ugh. That's just making me shudder just thinking about it. Um, all right, so the Gunther and AJ match was incredible. What a unique finish. The hidden tap was unreal. That was such a smart. I really liked that. That just shows you how technical Gunther is because who would think to do that where it's just like fake Styles out by tapping, but the ref didn't see it, so Styles lets go of the hold, and then and you know what happens after. It was just like that was so smart. That was like literally just that they don't call him the ring general for no reason on that one. That was insane. I'm
Yeah.
surprised they haven't done that before, or they probably have, but it's been so long that most people don't even remember it. It was
Yeah.
just that unique of a finish.
And that's again, like you said, they probably done that before, but they allowed so much space in between the times that they've done it, but that your reaction is still shock, you know?
Yeah.
And that comes with okay, we did something and we got the people. Let's not beat it. Let's not beat a dead horse and try to do it again and replicate it again and again and again. Let's let it breathe.
Yeah.
So I thought, I thought the match was great. I was excited about the match because it's Gunther and it's AJ Styles, two world
Yeah.
class competitors who are phenomenal, no pun intended, professional
Yeah.
wrestlers that are great. And I thought that was super creative to do it that way. And because again, Gunther made John Cena tap out. When you reach that status, it's gonna be hard. Like you can't expect AJ Styles to come in and just beat Gunther right after that.
No.
So to
No.
be able to pull it off the way that they did and be able to have a creative finish the way that they did, really speaks volumes to the type of competitors that AJ Styles and Gunther are. And maybe this won't be the end of it. Then maybe they'll make a nice little program out of it and we'll get more Gunther AJ Styles matches.
That would be nice. I mean, if that's if that's what it's gonna be, I would not complain about that. Alrighty, so I feel like we all agree on this one. Begrudgingly, we all expect Jericho to return at the Rumble. But who else on the men's and women's Rumble matches would you like to make a surprise appearance?
Mm.
Um, I mean, I guess we could say call-ups could be surprises, I guess, because you're not really, I mean, maybe not really expecting them, but I
Right.
mean, they're not advertised. I'd like to see Blake Monroe in the women's just for biased reasons, but that'd be kind of cool, I think. Um, I mean, anybody but Chris Jericho, but I feel like that's kind of just it's just a moot point, unfortunately. It's just a matter of when he's showing up. But for the men, I mean, you could throw Joe Hendry in there just for the crowd reaction, because that would be. I mean, you get a guaranteed reaction from that.
For sure.
I mean, I just want Blake. That's just my answer. I want Blake. I just want her to show up because it's like the rumors surrounding her are so odd right now because you had that whole thing where she didn't end up getting her title rematch because she attacked Thea, and I mean that was a whole mess in and of itself, that whole title and whatever. But you're like, okay, she gets banned from the building, the match isn't happening, so it's almost like that just sets up perfectly of, oh, she's going up to the main roster. Well, then it turned into, oh, well, she actually isn't now, and they have something new for her, and it's like, how do you justify not giving her her match for a title she didn't, I mean, technically shouldn't have lost? So I thought that was rather strange, but I don't know what's going on down there with that. That was just kind of like a mess of epic proportions. But even if she doesn't come up to the main roster, I'd just still like to see her at the Rumble because I feel like she get a pretty good reaction, because who doesn't love Blake? She's never done a bad thing in her life. Like she's innocent, I tell you. But yeah, I think that would probably be my number one choice. And then I mean, but I feel like Joe Hendry might not really be a surprise though. Maybe just like the way they do it. It's just like no one's really thinking of it, and then somehow, some way, somebody just says his name and he just shows up. Because I feel like that's the thing now. That's just the running thing. You
Yeah.
actually do just say his name and he shows up. So maybe like somebody on commentary just mentions it for some reason, and he ends up like conveniently being the next person. But those would be my picks just for the entertainment value of it.
Yeah. I would definitely steal your Blake Monroe pick. I think that would be a good way to introduce her to the main roster if they haven't got a glimpse of her in NXT yet. I think the Royal Rumble would be a good spot to do it. And I think whether she or not she leaves NXT or she stays, she's gonna thrive.
Oh yeah.
She's always wanted to be a WWE superstar. That's where she always wanted to put her craft in. She's there now. She's giving it 100%, and she's doing great. So she's
Yeah.
gonna continue to be great. As for the men, I am banking on Obafemi making
Yeah.
his Royal Rumble appearance, and that'll solidify him on the main roster. You know, if you've been watching the program, they've been showing a lot of vignettes and everything, and you don't know where Obafemi's gonna go. I just think putting him in the Royal Rumble and having him go crazy, maybe with a couple of big eliminations in the Royal Rumble, is gonna do wonders for him. So I definitely
Yeah.
would love to see Obafemi in there.
That would be another good one too, honestly. I think kind of going back to Blake, I think what I'm liking about her character now is that they've kind of taken the whole woman from hell like persona, and they've actually turned it into an extra layer for her character, because I feel like in AEW the woman from hell was just kind of a nickname. And I mean, yeah, she was brutal clearly in AEW, but it was always just kind of like, okay, yeah, she's the woman from hell, and when she gets angry, that's like bad things happen. But I feel like I like that they're kind of doing that whole like split personality kind of persona with her, where it's like you got the glamour on one hand and then you got the actual woman from hell on the other, and she plays it perfectly. I think she does a really good job with it, so I'm glad that they kind of like added an extra little bit of layer to her character, because they could have just kept it the way it was in AEW, and honestly, it still would have been great. I mean, whatever she does is great, so you couldn't have gone wrong either way. I just like that they kind of like made it a little more unique, because of course the AEW fanboys would just start, you know, bitching about how like, oh, she's just doing the same thing she did in AEW. It's like, well, now you can't say that because she took it and made it a whole new thing. So
Yeah,
I'm happy with that.
yeah, and that is kind of WWE's MO with certain things is like, okay, we're not just gonna leave something just for the sake of it. If we could turn it into a storyline aspect, or
Yeah.
you know, something to use into a storyline, like you said, with the split personalities and everything that she has going on in NXT. They took something that was just a moniker and they made it a part of her, and they
Yeah.
wanted to see her performance and her acting chops, basically. So that's kind of WWE's MO, is if it can be used in the storyline, you best believe that especially in NXT, they're going to experiment with it and see if it works.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think very many people could pull that off because it's that very interesting perspective of a split personality kind of character where it's not so readily apparent that she's switching from one to the other. There are plenty of little like backstage promos and segments where you see all over Twitter where it's just like, I think that was the woman from Hell talking. I don't think that was the glamour. And it's just the subtle little like differences she makes in like her cadence or her voice or her just tone or anything. And it's just it's very impressive what she can do because that kind of subtlety not everyone possesses. So if you have it, you flaunt it, and I'd say she is doing that very well.
She sure is.
And again, I'm just biased and I don't really care. But all right, so last question for Mike, and it's a very simple one. Where is Santos Escobar? I don't know. I wish I had
Not in
the answer.
Well, he's in WWE. They just don't want to use him in WWE as of right
He's in
now.
catering,
Yeah, he's in catering, basically.
unfortunately, which is like a shame because it's not like he's terrible. It's just like they just never really had anything for him that really got him going for a consistent period of time. And then it was just kind of like, okay, well, I mean, you're not doing anything of substance, so we have more people that'll take your spot, and unfortunately, they have. And when that kind of stuff happens, you sit in the back and watch the show on TV,
I would
or
love
don't.
to see him answer a U.S. Open challenge and maybe go up against Carmelo, because that would be a
Yeah.
great match. I think that would be a phenomenal match to see. Um, but that's kind of the handicap of the Open challenge idea, to do it all the time, is that you're not letting yourself build up any feuds or programs, because a feud between Carmelo Hayes and Santos Escobar would be money, but
Oh,
Carmelo Hayes is wrapped up in doing open challenges for the U.S. Championship.
mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the handicap of doing that sort of stuff, is that you back yourself into a corner and say, well, we kind of have to keep doing these open challenges because they work. The open challenges work, and they probably do great for the ratings on the show.
Yeah.
Because they're great matches. They've been consistently great matches no matter who the champion is. So that means you got to keep going with it. But again, you can't build up any feuds or any programs for the U.S. Championship around that, because you're doing open challenges, a new person every week. So they can't do that with Santos. So it's like, what else can you do?
No.
Because he's not to say that in a slight, but he's not a main event guy, but he's better than a mid card
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, he's kind of that like in betweener, I guess.
Right.
It's just like, yeah, you can see him get to a certain point, but then it's just like after that, it's like, okay, like yeah, sure, but yeah, it's kind of tough because that would be a really good like reintroduction for him because it's kind of the hit and like you said, kind of the hit and miss with the open challenges where it's just like, yeah, you give people plenty of opportunities to like showcase their skills and whatever, but then it's just like, okay, well, nothing ever is going to really come of it until they decide something's going to come of it, I guess, and that just doesn't happen very often or hasn't really happened lately. So yeah, I think unfortunately he's just going to continue to sit in catering until they think they have something for him or they get rid of him because unfortunately that's just the reality of it. If you're
Yeah.
stuck in catering, it's either they'll give you an opportunity and it works and then they'll take it and run with it. They won't do anything with it, or you're just gonna get released. Like
I
that's just a
I
cycle.
I think it was fear they didn't want him to go to AEW for some reason, which is weird,
Yeah.
because like
I mean,
I
Andrade did it 50 times, so why does it matter? Like,
yeah. And like I don't understand like if Escobar goes to AEW, I mean, it's not a big loss. It's not like you were using
yeah,
him and he was in TV and he was taking up TV time and you were
yeah.
devoting angles to him and storylines or anything like that. You weren't doing anything like that. So, what's the big loss if he jumps ship and goes to another company? Maybe just the perception?
I guess me. I don't know, because it's just like, okay, but if you're letting perception hold you back from doing something, then it's just like, why are you a company then? Because that shouldn't, you're cutthroat any other time, so why would it matter now? Like, it shouldn't matter, but I don't know. I don't know about that one, but maybe he'll come back at some point, but for now, he's just stuck.
Stock and catering.
Stuck in catering, which I mean, if it's good food, great, but if not, and I don't know about that one, but anyway. That is all of Mike's questions. So, Mike, thank you. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Mike.
it. All right, so we're gonna finish the episode with Mom's questions, and we get we get to start off with a fun story time. So she said to take it easy on me because we had a rough night last night.
Mm.
And if anybody watched the Steelers Texans playoff game, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. So we ended up going because, as we've talked about before, my parents have season tickets, so we automatically had playoff tickets. And to be completely honest, I've actually never seen a Steelers playoff game live before because growing up when we, oh, I don't know, routinely made it to the playoffs and, made it past the first round, my parents would usually go. And it got to the point, though, that every time they would go, they would lose. So they just kind of stopped going after a little bit. So then this comes around. We barely beat Baltimore to even make it into the playoffs. And I'm like, well, I guess we have to at least try and go.
Mhm.
But the problem is, it was clearly Monday Night Football, which means if I would have stayed that entire game, I probably wouldn't have gotten home till about like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I have to wake up at 5:30 every morning for work. So not the most ideal scenario, but we're like, we have to at least go. Well, we could leave at halftime, we can leave in the third quarter, whatever. It's like, yeah, if we're the fake fans, whatever, who fucking cares? I actually have priorities, and it's called my job. So I'm not gonna say we really had a lot of faith that we were gonna win because Houston's defense is just so good and our offense is just so inconsistent, I guess. I said going into it, I said the offense has to remember that it can't fall asleep for half the game. Like, this is the type of like team that you're not going to be able to fall asleep against because they're just going to kill us. And it was almost like everything that could have went wrong at the game did go wrong for them because it was like Houston's rushing was terrible, and yet they just ran all over us like it was nothing. Our defense forced, I think, 3 turnovers, if I remember correctly. We got 3 whole points off it. Didn't even score a touchdown. It ended up being 30-6, and I think I remember hearing that was the worst home playoff loss in like Steelers history. So
Wow.
not great. 7th straight playoff loss. Like, we're not doing so hot. We left at halftime because we're just like, it was still like 7-6 at that point, but we're like, we just have to go. Mom and I are just like, we just got to go. It was getting cold and the wind was blowing too. And we're up in like the bleacher section of the stadium where our seats are. And once the wind starts blowing in from the rivers and it's already cold enough, you start to lose feeling in your kneecaps a little bit. And it's like, yeah, I think we should probably just let's just go. Because it's, if they win, whatever. But I didn't have much faith. So we were kind of like listening on the radio and we're waiting for the like subway to get back to the apartment. And of course, we force another turnover, do fuck all with it. So it's like, okay, so that's clearly just how this game's going to go. So the best way I can unfortunately encapsulate this night going, and if you're kind of grossed out by like specific things, I would probably just skip ahead a couple minutes just to spare you the
Okay.
details I have to unfortunately say. So we got on so what the subway station is called the T here. So we got on the T, and there weren't that many people because of course most people were still at the game. So we get on, and there's like a couple other people that get on. There's this couple that gets on behind us, and they of course for whatever reason feel the need to just sit right behind us, even though they have like the entire subway car to themselves. So they're sitting behind us, and the way the subway station's set up right by the stadium is that it's the last stop, period. Like, you can't go any further than the stadium when you go that certain way on the T. So you have to like wait for the conductor to get out of like the one part of the car, and then he has to go the whole way to the other end to get the like front part of the car to go back into the city. And so we're sitting there waiting, and all of a sudden I just hear this very distinct sound of something hitting the floor, and this guy just starts fucking puking.
Really?
Like right behind us. Like literally right behind us.
Ugh.
So I'm just like sitting there, and I'm kind of just like trying to stare straight ahead, and I kind of like look at mom and she looks at me, and thankfully I was able to avoid the smell. Apparently she did not, because she's like, it's just straight alcohol. Like, go fucking figure. These
Wow.
people have been drinking since probably like noon on Monday, and I don't know. I'm not a drinker. I don't drink, like, period. I don't know. I guess you could say I identified to a degree as straight edge because I just don't do anything like that.
Mm.
And for that very reason, I don't want to be that person where I'm talking about them on a podcast because they just couldn't hold their liquor clearly. So, I kind of like look at mom, and the problem is we haven't even left the station yet. The train hasn't even started moving, and this
Oh
guy's
man.
already just like losing everything. And to make matters worse, we, from that station, that stop, we are like the fourth stop on this. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, do I want to have to listen and inevitably probably get some of this on my shoes for
Oh.
four stops? And I look at mom and she looks at me and I'm like, do you want to go? And she's like, yes, let's go. And so we got up and literally just walked to the whole other opposite car, like up to the front of the state, to the T, because I'm like, I'm not fucking doing this. And I said, and if this guy and his whatever girlfriend or whatever gets off at the stop we're going, we're speed walking because I don't want to fucking listen to this whole walk home. Thankfully, they didn't get off on our stop, but still, I'm just like, you know what? That was just the perfect way to describe that game and how it went.
Wow.
And it was just, it was, I'll say the atmosphere was great for about the first 10 minutes, and then it was just like back to the same old shit. And then lo and behold, Tomlin steps down literally this afternoon. I remember it was like 2 o'clock, I think, or 2:30 when it happened. So I'm like, okay, well, that was pretty fast. Fully didn't expect that to happen because I just thought we were gonna hold on to him until the end of time. But so who knows? Maybe we'll have better luck next year or in the future. But yeah, that was just a pun intended puke-inducing game and just night in general. So you know what? That's football for you, I guess. That's just how it is sometimes. So yeah,
Crazy, crazy.
say we had a bit of a rough night was putting it mildly. So now hopefully everybody didn't want to hear that has skipped forward, and we can move on now back to the wrestling, because I don't even want to talk about that anymore because I am a very sensitive person when it comes to stuff like that. So we're just gonna move on. Uh so we talked about this with Mike a little bit about Braun's spear on
Right.
Dragon Lee that looked she said the mom said that looked damn painful. He had to have had some type of side effect afterwards, because you can't just like take a hit like that, like you said, where your body's going one way and then it snaps back a certain way. Sorry
Right.
about that, my alarm went off there. But anyway, so it was just painful to watch. I'm sure painful to experience if you're Dragon Lee, but yeah, it's just Braun's just a freak of nature, and I would like to not ever be on the risk. You cannot pay me enough money to eat one of his spears, because most of the money you would give me, I would have to spend on medical bills. So it's just like I wouldn't really be winning anything. So yeah, just very, very painful.
You know,
Very painful.
and you know what I wonder too? How the hell did Dragon Lee not collide with the apron? Because he was
Yeah.
standing really close to the ring when Braun hit him, and he didn't collide with the ring steps or with the apron or
No.
nothing. He just kind of ate it. So man, just
You hope that was just dumb luck. Like, you
yeah,
hopefully, but still, like, still bad enough.
yeah. That spear was just crazy, man. That spear had intent to murder.
Yeah, yeah, I think those are most of his spears. That they
Yeah.
just like, how close can I come to putting somebody's life on the line with these? Um, obviously joking. We don't actually mean that, but it's just like it's almost like he has some ill intentions behind those because those are. I mean, you have to go full force on a spear because if not, and we've seen some very shitty spears where it's like you have to like just throw your weight into it or else it's
Right.
just not gonna look good at all.
Exactly.
But yeah, just I hope Braun gave him a nice dinner or something afterwards, or like sent him a like get well soon card or something because yeah, that's a lot of faith and trust you're putting in somebody to do that willingly to your body. So yeah, better them than us. That would be a little too painful for people like us.
I agree.
All right, so what did we think of Drew winning the belt? Also, do we see a heel turn for Cody? It seems like the next logical step.
Mm.
I mean, I was definitely surprised the Drew won because I feel like literally everybody and their brother was just like, oh, here we fucking go again. It's just another match with poor Drew's gonna get screwed over. So I think it was almost just I feel like they almost had to have him win because I don't know if he really could have recovered otherwise. So, good on Drew because Drew's not a bad champion at all. Just, I guess it was just more, maybe not so much shock. It was almost just like, wow, they actually fucking did it this time.
Yeah, I'm
But
actually interested in seeing how long he is going to be holding the title. Um,
yeah,
I wasn't necessarily surprised because I was like what you said, they gave him so many opportunities already. Like he wouldn't be able to recover from losing another opportunity at the world title. It's like that would be the proverbial get in the back of the line situation.
yeah,
So I wasn't necessarily surprised that he won. I thought it was very creative how they made it happen with Jacob Fatu and Jacob Fatu coming back. So now it becomes a whole situation. Is Cody going to go after Drew to get his title back, or is he going to go after Jacob Fatu for costing him the title? Um,
yeah, which is
so,
tough because I feel like you have justification either way, but
right,
I feel like you'd almost have to go after Jacob Fatu first, though, because if you don't, what's going to stop him from doing it again? And he
r-
would.
right. And now, does that subsequently lead to Cody doing the quote unquote heel turn? You know, because Jacob Fatu is pretty popular with the crowd. People love him. People love what he's all about. And Cody, I don't know if it was just the crowd itself, but I think
Yeah.
like people are kind of souring on Cody, which is weird. Like
Yeah.
he's getting the Cena treatment.
Yeah. Yeah, which I mean, I guess that comes with the territory, I guess. If you're pushed as like the face of the company at some point, at whatever a collective group of fans are just gonna be like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. So I guess we could have expected it to happen. I feel like I don't know. I don't know if there's like a way to do the heel turn where it's not so much like now all of a sudden he's a bad guy. It's just like maybe he's more of like leaning to the dark side a little bit. Not so much fully turning, but like not being happy go lucky anymore, I guess. Not that he was
Mm,
happy go lucky to begin with, but a little bit more like edge to him,
right.
possibly. I feel like that might be the better way to do it because you have to have all the grit and edge in the world and whatever to go against someone like Jacob Fatu. Like you're not gonna just barely beat him within like I can't see Cody just like sneaking one by him because it's just he's just too good of a wrestler and just too powerful of a guy. It's just like you have to tap into that darkness just a little bit to get a past somebody like him, and then maybe that'll help him get his title back because obviously that should be the end goal. But I don't know. It's just who knows?
I find it very interesting that they decided to do this so close to like WrestleMania season, where
Yeah,
usually they try to like have everything penciled in for WrestleMania. We're almost close to the Royal Rumble, and now we have a brand new undisputed champion. So I
yeah,
think it's very interesting. Does that mean Cody shows up in the Rumble? Like, is he going to be a part of the Rumble or what? You
yeah.
know, like, is he going to win it
Maybe.
for a third time? You know?
Oh god, people would get really pissed if that's the case. I don't think that would be the best idea. I would probably not do that, but I don't know. I mean, they've done stranger things, I guess. So I don't know.
It,
I don't know. Like I said, I just don't know if they're gonna try to do that whole like quote unquote typical heel turn. But then again, stranger things have happened in that case as well. So maybe they will go for it. I don't know.
yeah,
It'd be very interesting to see how they do it
yeah,
if they do it.
yeah, because it adds a wrinkle in Cody's whole story, his whole aura. It would just change things dramatically in such a dramatic fashion. But I do see it as like he becomes a little bit more unhinged,
Yeah. Yeah.
unstable, because he's driven by having to have this title. He would feel like the title is what makes him whole as a person. So
Yeah.
it's gonna drive him crazy not to have the title. So what is he gonna do? He's gonna go after everybody. First, he's gonna take out Jacob Fatu, because if it wasn't for Jacob Fatu, Cody would probably still be champion by now. And then he goes after Drew McIntyre. But then again, I don't see them instantly giving the title back to Cody just because he's going after Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, I feel like they would be doing a disservice to Drew because again, it's not like he's a slouch of a champion. He could hold it for quite a while if they let him. It's just a matter of are they going to let him? Which I say why not? Especially like you said, the good point of being so close to WrestleMania season, you kind of have to. It'd be kind of silly to do a flip-floppy kind of title reign between multiple people heading into your biggest pay-per-view of the year.
Right.
But what do we know? We just feel like that's just common sense, but you never know. But I say just keep it on him until after WrestleMania or maybe to WrestleMania and then maybe drop it then. But even then, I would still keep it for a little while longer just to give him something because God knows I think he's been put through enough shit lately that I think McIntyre's earned a decent title reign.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Alrighty, so our final question of the night. When do we see Jay White or Will Ospreay returning? Not soon enough for Mom. Yeah, those are two of her favorites, so she's not having a good time right now. However, Jay showed up at the retirement for oh God, I'm fully blanking. Tell me I'm
Tanahashi.
fucking tired. Yeah, Tanahashi, Jesus. You can tell it's late at night, but yeah, Tanahashi's retirement and he looked good. It's just a matter of you can look good under a suit all you want, but is he ring ready or not?
Right.
And that's the real question.
Right. I think we're closer to see Jay White return more so
Yeah.
than a Will Ospreay, because Will Ospreay had some work done on his neck,
Yeah.
and that's pretty delicate. That's a pretty delicate situation. You don't want to rush that. You don't want to rush coming back from that. You want to take all the proper time you can to rehab and get back to 100%. I think we're closer to CJ White because his injury wasn't as extensive as Will Ospreay, but
Well, it sounded like he had multiple that they were kind of just like adding up after a while,
right,
but obviously they weren't his neck. They were just it was more or less the quantity, not so much the quality of the injuries, odd as that sounds, but it's easier to come back from like say like I don't know, we'll just say like a separated shoulder than it is something with the neck
right.
because the neck affects so much more than just one part of your body. It affects pretty much everything if it goes horribly wrong. So I would have to agree with you on that. I feel like if we're going to see one of them show up sooner rather than later, I think it would end up being Jay.
And
Just for the fact of he's also been out longer than Will too. Will just kind of like hung on till the bitter end until they pretty much said you need to leave. So he had a couple more months of rehab up on him, but yeah.
and now
We'll definitely see Jay more.
the crappy part is that when Will comes back, I mean, for me personally, every single bump he takes on his head, his neck, I'm gonna
Yeah.
be like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
be wincing and cringing because it's the same thing with Danielson.
Mhm.
After a while, you start to wonder, like, is it smart for this person to be doing this stuff to their head and their neck? And we know how AEW likes to take liberties with its wrestling moves and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah.
kind of and like you can't put a throttle on Will Ospreay. You can't tell him scale it. You can't tell Will Ospreay to scale it back because then he won't
Yeah.
be Will Ospreay.
Yeah, that's the tough thing. It's like, where's that line gonna be of, okay, well, we're not gonna hold you back, but also don't be stupid at the same time. But
Right.
some of his stuff is just boils down to being stupid and it looks cool. So I don't know how they're going to manage to do that, but it's kind well, and I think unfortunately it's also, at least from what we've seen, I'm not going to say that we know exactly this is how like Tony Khan runs a business, but unfortunately I feel like Tony Khan is one of those where it's like for the most part he can kind of be pushed over into being convinced one way or the other, where it's like he might want Osprey to scale it back, but Osprey could probably convince him, "Oh no, I'm good, trust me, and like I got this, don't worry about it." And it's like, okay, well, yeah, you can practice it 1,000 times, but on 1,001 you try it and something bad happens, then you shit out of luck.
Right.
So hopefully they're reasonable enough to be like, hey, you can still do certain things, but maybe there's some other things you probably shouldn't do that, just for the sake of your neck, because yeah, you can come back from it, but one wrong move and your life's changed forever, not in a good way. So,
Yeah, and he's so young, to
yeah.
have those ailments already at this age is one thing,
Yeah.
so for quality of life, I hope that this is an injury that he's going to take seriously. Hopefully he doesn't try to rush it and try to come back sooner than later. I'd rather him take all the time he needs to rehab and get back to 100%, and maybe, change up his wrestling style a little bit, you know
Maybe you're
maybe
gonna
a
have
little
to almost.
add a little bit more technical stuff, maybe wow
Yeah.
us that way, because you know again, when I'm going to be watching Will Ospreay, every single bump he takes on his head and neck, I'm going to just wince.
Yeah. And you can't help it because it's just like, we just, yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping they just find a way to, I don't know, meet in the middle. That's what I'm trying to say. Just meet in the middle and maybe just like best of both worlds, but I'm not entirely sure how that's going to happen, but you never know.
Yeah. It's Will Ospreay. I mean, like we said, Jay White should be coming back fairly shortly. He's just had a myriad of injuries, and it's not like Will Ospreay, who had that one severe injury to his neck where he had to get neck surgery done. Jay White has been dealing with a bunch of different injuries, so hopefully he's on the mend and he can come back soon. I would love to see an MJF Jay White program for the AEW World Title. I think that's where AEW needs to go. They need to go young. They need to go up and coming. They need to have that youthful fire, not necessarily just go with the veteran who's always had the belt and been great. I think MJF is a great champion. I think having someone like Jay White as the opposite of MJF and having them be a program, I think that would be great. And then you could do stuff with like Darby Allin with MJF, and then you could do Jungle Jack Perry MJF. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things that AEW can do to keep it on this side of youth with MJF being champion, and he can really carry them on to a different level.
Yeah. And I feel like they should. I mean, it'd be kind of silly for them not to because yeah, he's annoying. Yeah, it's the whole low-hanging fruit thing, but he can still make that title. So
Yeah.
see what can happen with them. And again, it's just a matter of more or less just a matter of when Jay White's coming back, and I would think it'd be sooner rather than later. It's just are they going to save it for a pay-per-view, or are they going to ruin it with like only coming back on a Dynamite maybe? But I don't want to say ruin it, but I feel like somebody like Jay should be able to come back on pay-per-view. That should be like a big thing, but we'll have to wait until when is the next pay-per-view? I just realized when is the next pay-per-view we're gonna
I
have to
think
talk
not
about. I
till
feel like
February or March.
that
It's
sounds about right. It might be Revolution, maybe.
Revolution is the next pay per view, but that's not till again February or March,
Oh, but
which
then
which I think is smart.
pay-per-view. Yeah,
I think
I'm
it's
trying to
smart
think of
that
when the
they
next.
took time off. They didn't do a pay per view every month. I don't really think there needs to be a pay per view every month for AEW. I think
No.
a pay per view every 3 months, maybe, so you can have 4 pay-per-views a year. I think that would
Yeah.
be well worth the $50 price tag. And
Yeah, not every other month
right, and
because it adds up.
yeah, and it'll boost your TV ratings, because then you could do big stuff on TV to fill in the time. So I'm actually not opposed to AEW taking the month of January and possibly February off from their pay-per-view schedule and just going at it with March.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because the next pay-per-view we're going to be talking about is obviously the Rumble, but we got 2 more weeks for that one, so we have some time to answer some more questions.
That's right. That's what we do here. We answer your questions about professional wrestling. Do we have any more questions left on the docket?
No, we are done.
We are done with all of the questions. Well, guys, thank you so those questions. They definitely covered a different various amount of topics from WWE and AEW. So thank you once again for participating with the show, and we appreciate you very, very much.
Yes, thank you.
All
and
right.
I'm sorry for horrifying you guys with my story from last night. I apologize, but
no, it was
we had to talk about it, unfortunately. But
it was a great story. It was a great story. I just wish it had a better outcome for you in that playoff game, because I saw the score. I was like, ugh, that is not good.
Thankfully, everything went to hell after we were already home. So it's like there's a positive in everything. It's just a matter of it's literally, and I mean, you definitely understand with your teams too. It's that like meme you always see on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, where it's I would follow insert whatever to hell. I just wish they'd stop going there.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it feels like, especially with the Steelers. It's like I still support you guys, but goddamn it, stop going into hell, please. I get tired of going there every year, but
yeah.
I digress though.
The life of a sports fan.
It's great. It's fantastic.
I tell you. Well, guys, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Ringside Rundown podcast. You can find this episode and all episodes of the Ringside Rundown podcast on all podcast platforms. This is available on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to podcasts. The Ringside Rundown should be there. All you have to do is just search Ringside Rundown, hit the follow or subscribe button, and you'll never miss an episode. We come out with an episode on a weekly basis every Wednesday. Our next episode is going to be a questions episode again. So if you have a wrestling related question that you would like to ask us, whether it be 1 question or 5, it doesn't matter. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Ringside Rundown, and you can drop your questions there. We post up a tweet every Monday afternoon asking for questions, so be on the lookout for that. Go to Twitter, and our handle on Twitter is at Ringside Rundown. And like I said, we ask for questions every Monday afternoon for the Tuesday recording for the Wednesday drop of the episode. And like I said, it's available all across the board on the internet. We're also available on YouTube. If you don't have a podcast platform that you use to listen to podcasts but still want to check out the show, you can check it out on YouTube. YouTube has full episodes of the show. And if you happen to have a podcast platform that you use but you don't find the Ringside Rundown on there, just let us know via DM and we will get you an episode of the podcast on the silver platter. But the caveat is you have to give us back the silver platter, because Shay's mom, it belongs to her, and she used to be a deathmatch wrestler in Japan. So she's very dangerous and she likes her silver platter, so make sure you give it back to her.
Well, and she's also mad about last night, so you kind of don't want to get on her bad side.
You don't want to be on her bad side. She's already got 1 foot in. Don't get her angry. Make sure you give her back the silver platter, and all will be good, and you can listen to the Ringside Rundown. Just to let you guys know, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, whether it's Raw, SmackDown, AEW Dynamite, or Collision, I am watching the show live on Twitch and YouTube. So check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/Ringside Rundown, or on YouTube, youtube.com/Ringside Run Pod, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to watch some wrestling with me, we do so on the channel. It's a good time. We have a lot of fun, and it's a great place to meet fellow wrestling fans. So again, check me out, twitch.tv/Ringside Rundown, or youtube.com/@Ringside Run Pod. Shay, where can they get in touch with you?
You can find me on my wrestling Twitter at @ShayRingside_. The running joke we always say is that it's Eric's Twitter handle. I just copy and pasted it a little bit and just added a little bit of my flair to it.
She just copied the homework, that's all.
Yeah, it's my name though. So entirely copied, just a little bit.
There you go, guys. Well, we'll be back next week with another episode. And again, it's an episode where you can send us in some questions and we can talk about it on the show. So if you have a question, don't forget, every Monday afternoon on Twitter. That tweet will go up asking for questions at Ringside Rundown. So make sure you drop a follow there. Drop us off a follow on our Twitter handles, Erik Ringside _ and Shay Ringside _ Thank you again, guys, for listening. And for Shay Hickson, my name is Erik Vasquez. We'll see you on the next episode, guys. Take care.
See you later, guys.